start out by saying thank you to the chairwoman and everyone else here for being here today and allowing me to speak out my story. So it's a very emotional story. It's not a pretty story, but it's mine. So I'm gonna share it.
And take your time, you don't have to rush.
Okay. So I would also like to thank Brittany Ruiz for inviting me here today, for I'm afraid without her help in this hearing today, my story, like many others out there, would be lost to the world unknown. I honestly don't even know where to start. But who would in a situation like this? So I will start with a little bit about my angel's birth. When Zoe was born, I was not ready. I was 20 and terrified about being a mommy, but not because I thought I wasn't capable of being a great mother. No, I was terrified to finally be bringing my little girl into this world where mommy can't protect her. She no longer has a womb to hide in that's all comfy and cozy, not to mention the fact that my personal childhood and life wasn't such a good example of what life can provide for a little girl. I was terrified that I would somehow lose her, that a man would come and treat her like me, that she'd be raped, put down, and hurt, because I personally know that the world isn't such a nice place. The one thing, however, that I never thought would happen is that the system put in place to protect those of us being mistreated would be the same system to abuse me and many others like me. Throughout my 21 short years of life, on July 31st, 2015, at 10:15 p.m., under the full blue moon, and also on my mother's birthday, I gave birth to the most beautiful, wonderful, and precious little being ever. I held 21 inches and 8 pounds and 7 ounces of pure innocence. I knew from that first moment two things. One, I would do anything to protect this child, and two, that I was not nearly as prepared as I thought. The first 2 months of Zoe's life, I spent doing a bunch of research on Oregon laws for immunizations, as well as the cause and effect of immunizations and certain disabilities. I researched not only American databases, but European databases as well. That's when I decided that I was going to delay immunizations for Zoe and spread them out. I didn't want to overload her little body. Furthermore, I didn't want one to react badly and then her doctor to spend precious hours guessing which one could it be. I know it's frowned upon not to give your children immunizations as specified by school districts and the government in general, so I found a good middle that I could work with. I was happy, and Zoe was happy too, or so it seemed. In December of 2016, I was sexually assaulted by my ex-husband. Shortly after, CPS was involved and we went to court. Judge Rainey out of Washington County ordered a 14-day safety plan. I carried out that safety plan. I moved and my daughter was to remain with Grandpa Reynolds, my father, until the 14th day. On the 14th day, instead of my little girl coming home to mommy, a CPS worker showed up at my father's home and removed my child. Sorry.
You're doing, feel free to take a minute. You're doing really well.
I'm so sorry. On the 14th day, instead of my little girl coming home to mommy, CPS workers showed up at my father's home at night and removed my child with 2 officers who said they would do so by force. This lady took my sleeping child out of her sleeping grandma's arms and laughed in my dad's face as she left. The following day, we had an emergency shelter hearing. CPS had no new evidence at the time, but my ex-husband, however, did. He said, his lawyer anyways, said that in 2012, my father was charged with 4 counts of sexual abuse towards a minor. CPS agreed to this statement. The case in which they are talking about is my personal case, where my father pressed charges against my sister's husband for sexually molesting and raping me for years. On that day, Judge Menchaca ruled to have my daughter placed in out-of-home care. The following Monday, we found out that same day, my ex-husband's family got approved for an emergency approval, and my child was placed with the family of the man who sexually assaulted me in my apartment complex driveway. Or so I believe, because CPS is refusing to give any details other than that she is with family, yet no one in my family has contacted me to tell me that she's with them. So where else would she be? I could not believe it. Since then, CPS has done nothing to help me. They lied under oath after being sworn in when they didn't have to at the shelter hearing, and said that I've never participated in services and that I was without adequate housing. CPS had issued ISRS workers in my home 4 times a week for over a month. They also helped pay for my new apartment. I've only seen my daughter 5 times in the last month and a half. I won't even have her for Easter. CPS won't even take her to her current pediatrician to continue her shots on the specified regimen that we had agreed. Because like I said, I don't want to overload her little body. They won't even allow me to hold my child while they get her up to date on her immunizations because I wasn't fast enough. They didn't even tell me that they talked with the foster family and got my daughter a new pediatrician and not her current one, and finished her immunizations without a court order, without a judge signing paper, anything. It took me resending an email multiple times asking about this, asking about my child and her health, because of the cuts all over her body where I see her at visits, because of the severity of the diaper rash that she has had over the last month and a half in the 5 visits I've seen her, because of the fact that her left eye was busted on our 4th visit and the CPS worker said something about it. I didn't even say something about it. Once again, someone gets to rape me, and the only difference this time is that I'm being raped of my rights as a mother instead of my flesh. I fully support all parents' rights to delayed immunizations or even not having to vaccinate. You don't go through hours of labors, vomit, diapers, and cries just to have your rights taken away. My name is Azzhaley Auel, and I'm the young mother of Guinevere Auel, and I believe there needs to be a change. Thank you very much. And if I could potentially meet with Senator Gelser afterwards, I would appreciate it to share more of my story, because I'm hoping to get my daughter back home before Easter, because there's no reason she shouldn't be with mommy. That's all I have to say.
Well, thank you so much for coming forward. I can't imagine.
I didn't picture 21 being like this.
Well, you're very powerful, and of course, I'll meet with you after. And are there? And I'm sorry for what you've been through. Are there questions for this panel? All right. So we're going to excuse this panel. Don't leave after the hearing, though. Okay. So we'll chat. My staff's on their way down. And next we have Jordan Ohid.